Hey guys, welcome back to the next part of our series. Today we're going to continue with chapter number 3, and we're going to be using patterns, a couple of them too, to get some nice stuff. So first of all, let's tell our little avatar here that it's time to move on, and we're going to be working with someone else for now. So I'm just going to go here, avatar, and select delete all avatars. Now I'm going to go into the avatar section, and we're going to be using a male character. So we're going to go here to the male character, and remember, all of these characters that you see right here, they are available for you if you're subscribed to the full version. The only thing you need to do is just click on this button right here, and it will download it from the site. It just stores them on the cloud so that you don't have to use all the stuff. So I'm going to grab this guy, because we're going to be doing a medieval, like Viking kind of look. And I think this guy is the closest we probably have to to like a Viking. Some of the other ones are of a different ethnicity for the time period. So in this case, this is the character, and in your chapter 3 folder, you're gonna find two. Whoop, where is it? Give me just 1 second. There we go. So there's going to be two references. The first one is this one, and this is what we're going to be starting with. And before we actually jump onto the garment itself, we need to understand what the hell is going on here, right? Because usually when we take a look at the pattern, they're going to be saying and telling us a whole bunch of different things, okay? So this shirt right here that we're saying, it has a specific measurements for a specific kind of character. And this is the first thing that I want to make very clear about patterns. Patterns are really good, but they're more a reference than a complete guide. So if we were to trace this, use the exact same measurements, and then make it so that it simulates on top of our character, we might not get the result that we want, okay? That's very important to know, because a lot of people think that the pattern is going to be like this magical solution. And there's a lot of sites that even sell patterns, and they're good. Like, they're great ways to get more reference and start a project. But the problem is that you need to understand that each specific character, each specific person is going to be slightly different. So your job as a tailor, and in our case as 3D artists, is to make sure that these things fit in the best possible way. So whenever I see a pattern, the first thing I want to see properly is how many pieces do we have, okay? So we have the body, which is a very square body. It doesn't have the same sort of look that we've been seeing for shirts and stuff. We have a sleeve, fairly easy to understand. We have this thing called, I'm not sure if it's pronounced gusset or gosset. There's this little square that gets sewn onto the inside of the arms just to give it a little bit more flair. We have the neckband, and we have the wristbands. And that's it. That's pretty much all we have for our characters, okay? So we're just going to bring this in. We're just going to go here into the element or into the section, right-click. We're going to say Add Background Image. We navigate to our folder, and we select this one right here. Now, the scale, the ideal thing would be to get this into a nicer scale. So let's say something like 300, okay? So 300, there we go. And I'm going to move it to the side. I usually don't like working with patterns on top of my characters, but if you find a pattern that fits the character perfectly, you can trace it on top, and that's perfectly fine. So the first thing that we can do, well, my bad. I always forget about canceling this thing. There we go. So again, 300, just hit OK. There we go. So the first thing we're going to do is the body. This body right here. And as you can see on the page here, or on the options, we're expecting to have the character on a T-pose, which we don't have. But we can, and here's what we can do. We can go here to the character and select, remember this, show X-ray joints. So I can grab this edge right here and this edge right here, and we can rotate them so they're in a T-pose. It's not going to be a perfect T-pose because we don't have the properties, the exact properties of the elements, but it's going to be really, really close. Now the deformation might look slightly weird because here the shoulders, they were way too low. But if you want to have the T-pose, we can definitely have it like this, and it's going to work just fine. By the way, the arrangement points is still working. Everything's still working because the arrangement points are kind of linked to the mesh itself. So we can move the character and pose it and create this sort of thing. So yeah, now over here, I'm just going to go into my polygon creation tool, or rectangle tool, and I'm just going to create a big element right here, like this. Now, see how it doesn't even match? Because this is drawn. So that's why it's very important to understand that patterns, again, they're just a guide. You don't need to be like something that you're always going to be using. So as you can see here, it says that this is the shoulder, this is the other shoulder, and this is the main part of the body. But if we were to place this on top of our character, it's not enough. It's not going to be enough to really fold nicely on top of the character. It's going to be really, really slim. It's supposed to be 61 centimeters on this side, but if we take a look at the pattern right here and we check, you're going to see that we're only at 47 centimeters. So that means that my pattern's a little bit too small for what we're going for. So I'm going to select the pattern, and let's just make it a little bit bigger, okay? Now let's select this again, edit pattern, and we should be 65. That's fine. And this is a lot better. It looks a lot nicer over here. Now, as you can see, we have a circle, and we do have some measurements for the circle. Do we need to match the measurements perfectly? No, not really. And in medieval times, they were not super savvy about like a lot of calculations, more often than not. And that's why you see this in very like square shapes. More often than not, they would just like cut like patterns together and sew them as they could. So in this, I'm going to go into the internal shapes. I'm going to create an internal ellipse. I'm going to start right there. And I'm going to roughly pinpoint where this thing is supposed to be, which is about there. Now, of course, I would like to move this thing to the very center of the element, which is right there. I'm going to right-click. I'm going to say right-click the pattern. I'm going to say cut and sew. And then this pattern right here, I'm going to delete. And we have a hole on the head. So now we're going to position this. Unfortunately, I mean, we can use the points right there. I don't think it's going to really like make a whole bunch of difference. Like the attachment point, like there's no really an attachment point that we can use. So I'm just going to move this thing. Let's rotate this around. And we're going to just pretty much let it fall on top. Now, in this case, I am going to go into the neck. Because if I let this fall from the head, it might not find like the proper like direction to go into the head. And it might just slip through other sides. So now, if we do this, ta-da, we have like a poncho. In Mexico, we have these things called sarapes, and they're kind of like this, just longer. So yeah, there we go. We have our first piece of fabric. Now, as you can imagine, we are going to have the sleeves. The sleeves are going to be part of the element, and the sleeves are going to be sewn onto these areas right here. But we're going to be using free sewing. We're not going to be using like traditional sewing in this case. So let's do the sleeves. Now, we're getting some measurements here, so let's try and match them. I'm just going to go here, click, and it says that we have 50 centimeters by 65 centimeters. That would be 650. Hit OK. This is what we get. It's the other way around, so let's just move it like this. And see how it doesn't even match. Like the proportion of the measurements is not even like correct, but that's fine. That's part of the it's part of the deal. So I'm gonna grab this guy. I'm gonna right click. I'm gonna copy, and then I'm gonna right click, and I'm gonna say mirror paste right here. And then this one and this one, I'm gonna click, and I'm gonna say apply linked editing or symmetric pattern with sewing. There we go. So now they're connected. So if I grab one of this and I show the arrangement points of my guy, and I move it up here, for instance, you're going to see that we get this. As you can see, the sleeve goes right there. And as you can see, this is a really, really long sleeve. You can even see the pattern here. So it's going to be a very puffy shirt, which is perfectly fine. So I'm going to grab my sewing tool, and we're going to sew from the top, or let's go into segment sewing, from the top to the bottom. And that's going to happen on both elements. So if we simulate now, you're going to see that we get this very, very puffy... Oh, sorry, my bad. I did this the wrong way. Now, why did I do this the wrong way? Well, because I placed this thing in this like long direction right here, but over here they actually went the other way. So that's something that we've mentioned before. We need to rotate this guys so that when we select this guys and go into the pattern options, the direction of the like the grain of the element here goes in the proper direction. There we go. So there should be it. So now let's just make sure that we are grabbing the proper segment. So it's going to be from here to here. Am I right? Yes, there we go. So now we simulate, and as you can see, we're going to get this super long puffy sleeve right there. And that's it. We get the beginning of our sleeves on both sides. Perfect. Now I'm going to select this guy right here. And since I wanna have like a symmetry on this guy, or not symmetry, but it will be easier for me to sew both of these guys in a symmetrical pattern, we need to convert this piece into a symmetrical piece. So the easiest way to do it is, first of all, to go into the points right here and say split, the uniform split. There we go. Do the same thing over here. So split, and then uniform split. Oh, sorry. Right click, split, uniform split, hit OK. And then we're going to use our internal line section to draw a line from that new point to that center point. Hit enter. And then from this point to this point and hit enter. We go back to selection mode, select these two guys, right click, cut and sew. So now it's the same piece, but now we have a line down the middle. And what we can do is we can select one, select the other, right click and say apply linked editing symmetric pattern. So now if I ever do anything on one side, like editing a curve or something, it's going to be editing on the other one. And that's pretty much it. So that's all we want to do. We need to, of course, sew the segments together. Oh, actually, sorry, they're already sewing, or they're already sewn. So yeah, if we simulate, everything is working exactly as expected. So now we're gonna, I would like to find the middle point on this section so that it's a little bit easier to create the connection to our sleeves. So again, we're gonna go into selections, and we can actually select two patterns in this case. So I'm gonna select this one and this one, right click, and we're gonna split both of them with uniform split. So as you can see, did it work on this side? No, it didn't work. Okay, so we need to do it one at a time. There we go. So now we have the split on both sides and on both sleeves. And now we can use our very nice and trusted free sewing tool. So we're gonna go from here to there, and from that point to the blue point, because we know that that's the point where this thing's gonna end. So from here to there, and for the blue point to the other blue point. And it's already happened on both sides, as you can see right there. Now, the great thing about this is, since now we do have the information of where this thing ends, it's going to be a lot easier to just sew this line together. See how everything like falls into place? And this is I was talking with some colleagues of mine, and this is something that we were discussing. Marvelous Designer is a pretty easy like tool to use. Like the tools right here, all of the pattern tools, the sewing tools, they're relatively easy to understand. The trick is how to properly think about the characters and the cloth creation to make sure that this looks as nice as possible, right? So what I'm definitely gonna do is, this is way too short, so let's bring this thing down, and probably not that low, but like about there. And this one, let's bring it up as well. There we go. Perfect. Now, it's not the same distance. We can make it the same distance. The ideal thing would be to make them the same distance. So I'm going to try to eyeball it. There we go. That's fair enough. That's close enough. So now, again, when we simulate, we get this hole right here, or this separation. So now we need to, of course... Oh, wait. You see that? It kind of created like a dart somewhere. That's fine. It doesn't look that bad. So now we need to sew like this two open sides right here. So in this case, I do think I'm going to use the segment sewing. And we can go like from here. I believe it's here. Nope. There we go. To here and here. And that should sew both sides. Let's simulate. And yeah, there we go. We have that nice little effect over there. Now this looks like a pillow blanket or something, right? It doesn't look really nice or really cool. But that's oh, come on, Marvelous, help me out here. I don't want to reset this. Can we pull this out? Yes. Cool. So it looks like oh my god. I was pulling it out from one side and then we got it on the other side. I'm wondering if I sewed something wrong. I think I might have sewn something wrong. So let's do free sewing instead. I'm gonna go here to the free sewing tool. And we wanna free sew from this bottom part to the connection of the arm. And from this bottom part to the connection of the arm. That should be the line then. There we go. That's a lot closer. So yeah, our element is looking quite nice here. Now, as you can see here, we have two more pieces. We have the neckband and we have the wristband. On the picture here, you can see that the neckband is relatively small. So this neckband is what's going to be creating pretty much like the tightness that we're going to see here on the upper side of our character, right? So in order to do that, I mean, we can, again, just follow this, or we already know how to do a neckband. So I am going to go to the character right here. I'm just going to create a nice little polygon, something like this. Here I am going to be using like the avatar to kind of get like the idea of how big this should be, because I do want to have a little bit of like breathing room. There we go. Let's show the arrangement points, and we're going to make this thing jump to like a next section, like here. Yeah, that seems fine. Now, I think I'm going to go back to a different pose, so let me select poses here, and let's go back, what would be cool? Let's go like a V pose first. We'll do one of this like more relaxed poses later. But there we go. So now, it's just a matter of course, sewing the segment from this side to this side, and when we simulate, we're going to get that thing right there, the color. Now, if the color is way too big or way too thick, this is where we can change it. And it's really, really simple because this pattern controls everything there. So just make it slightly shorter here. So that when we simulate, we get this. There we go. That's a lot closer to what I would expect. And again, if we take a look at the reference here, you can see that's quite form-fitting. It might be a little bit longer, though. I think it might be just a little bit longer. Now, one of the magic things that's going to happen here, as you guys already know, is that this segment is only 470 millimeters, so 47 centimeters. And this one, if I take both sides, that's 380 on one side and 380 on the other side. So there's way too much fabric over here and way too little fabric here. So what happens when you have a garment that has more fabric than the other one? Wrinkles. We're going to get a lot of wrinkles. It's kind of like getting pleats, but without like the overcomplication of the pleats elements. Now, to sew this properly, again, it would be a nice idea to split this. So I'm going to split, and uniform split. Just to, splits are always super helpful because they allow us to find a precise point, right? So I'm going to go here to free sewing. We're going to go from the center. Actually, no, we're going to start on this guy. So we're going to go from here to the center and back. We're going to go from here to the back. And then we're going to go from here to the center and back. We're going to go from here to the back. As you can see, we have the full thing here. So now, when we simulate, we're going to get a lot of folds on this inner section right here. Now, here's what I'm seeing, that the color is not as strong as I would like. I would like it to be a little bit stronger. So I probably will be making it smaller. There we go. Let's simulate again. Still not making exactly like I want. We can also use a little bit of elasticity. Remember that? So the elastic one. There we go. Ratio of 80 is way too much, so let's do like 90. And that way the color is going to have a little bit of elasticity, and it's going to be bringing the whole cloth in, and we're going to get those nice like little effects on this side of the character, on this side of the cloth. I think it's a little bit too much still, so let's go to like 95. So it's a little bit stretchy, but not super stretchy. There we go. That way at least we can hold the element. Maybe a little bit bigger, just a tad bit. And this is one of the fun parts about Marvelous. You're going to be just like trying things out. Imagine trying to do this like in ZBrush or Maya, where you're going to have to do a lot of trial and error, and it takes a lot longer. That's why this software is so amazing. So yeah, that's it. Now we need the sleeves, of course. And as you can see, the wristband is very, very similar. So I'm actually just going to copy this guy. So Control-C, Control-V. Let's go here on the wristband. Of course, this is way, way too long. Let's make sure that there's no stitching. Sometimes when you copy things, you get stitching. Okay, we do have one stitching, but that's fine. And let's use arrangement points. Arrangement points, and let's go there. There we go. We're going to, of course, duplicate this. So Control-C, Control-B. And then we're going to go 1, 2, right-click, and we're going to say symmetric pattern with sewing. And technically, we should get a pattern over here, but I'm not seeing it. Let me select this one and get it there. There we go. So now if we simulate, the pattern is going to be there. I think that's way too big of a pattern, so let's select both of them, make them smaller. Simulate again. There we go. That's a little bit more manageable, I would say. And now it's just a matter of like getting these guys where they're supposed to go. So this one goes over here. This one goes over here. Okay, you can arrange your patterns in any way you want. There's no like hard rule on how to do it. And we're gonna go free sewing. So all of this to all of that. Careful there, I did it the wrong way. Remember, if you're doing from one side, you have to start on the same side so that the stitching matches. Matches on both sides. So now when we do this, ta-da, we have this very nice, cool looking shirt. Now, there's a couple of things that I want to change. And this is, again, this is when we're going to start working a little bit more on the, I would call this the, like the free like creation thing. So you can see we have this cut right here. That would be a nice cut to have. And it's really not that difficult to create. But we need to create it in order to get a nice effect. Also, we have these things right here. The little, what was their name? The gusset. Now, the gusset, and again, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. I'm not sure if it's gusset or gusset, but this thing right here, this guy right here, It's a rhomboidal shape that we sometimes sew into elements or into patterns to make sure that the stress of the pattern is not as much. Think of it as a reverse dart. So instead of cutting the dart away to reduce cloth, we kind of like insert a dart into the element to add a little bit more cloth and make sure that things are not as stressed. So from the pattern here, what I'm gathering from the fact is that they want to insert a gusset right where this thing's inserted. So instead of having this thing right here, like just like stitched the way we have them, they would like to have like a nice little gusset right there. So can we do it? Is there a way to make it in a like relatively easy way? And the answer is more or less. It's not that difficult, but yes, we can add it. So I'm gonna go here to the internal polygon lines, and going from here, from the basis of our like point, I'm gonna go in, I don't know, like 5 centimeters. I think it's a good number. There we go. And then at a 45-degree angles, by pressing shift, I'm gonna go all the way out until we hit the line right there. I'm gonna hit enter. And then we're gonna go from that point and 45-degree angles down here until we hit the line, and that should be enter. Now, to make sure that these lines are going to the position that I'm looking for, I'm just gonna right click, extend, trim, and add point to pattern outline. And that should create like the element. This line we don't need, actually. I think we were already there, but sometimes these things are not touching the pattern outline. That could cause some problems. Now, as you can see, they measure 69.3. So, and this one measures 49.1. So I'm gonna go again to my internal line, but now on the sleeve themselves, and it was 49.1. Let's try to make it as close as possible. There we go, 49.2, and then shift, and we go there. Enter, shift, and we go there, enter. Perfect. So now we've created the gusset, as you can see right here. If we simulate, there's going to be like a there's going to be like a new rhomboid shape on there. And that rhomboid shape right now, it's not doing anything because we haven't changed any of the lines. But this is going to be adding some interesting effects right now. So what I'm going to do to make this simple, like we don't want to overcomplicate things, is I'm going to delete this internal line. See that? That's a problem because it's deleting everything. That's fine. I'm going to select this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy. And we're going to say right click, cut and sew. There we go. So now the two little triangles are split on both sides, by the way. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy, and hit right click, merge. So now we should have the two little triangles, which is the gusset. Remember this one, this square right here. That's the thing that we have here. And let me see if I can delete this line. Yeah, we can. There we go. And yeah, there we go. So now we've successfully removed the piece. But right now we haven't really changed anything because, as you can see, these points are doing exactly the same thing that we had before, right? So we have to move these things. Let's move this a little bit like closer to the center. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move this point out, because remember that would be like creating a dart, and we don't want to create the dart. We just want to have like a straight edge, and then in that straight edge we're gonna sew in this diamond shape. So now when we simulate, as you can see on that specific area, it's a little bit difficult there, but in that specific area we're gonna have a little triangle shape. Let's go back to surface shade. It's going to be a little triangle shape that should be giving us a little bit more breathing room. So yeah, let's just select the gusset and see where it is, because it should be sewn in, because everything was sewn in. Oh, although I'm not seeing any sewings. Let's see, segment sewing. Yeah, it's not sewn in. So let's sew this in. Okay, so we're probably going to have to change the sewing lines here. Where's the gusset then? Oh my god. Oh my god, guys, I made a horrible mistake. My god, I can't believe I did this. So we did create the gusset, but it was on the upper side of the element, not on the lower side. So, oh my god, that was my bad. Okay, let me go back here real quick, and I just remove all of this triangle shape that we created. Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna stop the video right here, guys. Sorry for this like going over. You guys know that we normally don't like to do any sort of like timelets and stuff. So yeah, a small little mistake. I did the Gusat in a place that wasn't supposed to be. It was supposed to be down here, so it would be like right about here. Like the triangle that we need to create would be around there. So I'm gonna stop the video right here, and in the next one we're gonna be talking about the details for the shirt. We're gonna go back on this Gusset. I'm gonna find out how to properly pronounce this thing, and we're gonna do the little like opening that we have here to make it look a little bit nicer, not like a priest right now. So yeah, there we go, guys. I'll see you back on the next one. Bye bye. Hey guys, welcome back to the next part of our series. Today we're going to continue with the shirt details, and I'm happy to announce that the correct way to pronounce the Gusset, as I was saying, is Gusset, not Gusset, it's Gusset. So I'm going to go into my sewings, and I'm actually going to delete the sewings that we have here on the arms, because those sewings are going to be replaced now with this Gusset. So I'm going to create a little square. I thought about like extracting this from the circle, but it's a little bit too complicated. So let's just create a little square here. I would say like 100 centimeters should be more than enough. Or 10 centimeters in this case, so something like this. There we go. We're going to rotate this, and we're going to rotate this 45-degree angle. So this guy right here is going to be on the bottom side of our sleeve, right? Because, yeah, it's going to be like down here. So in this case, actually, it might be a little bit easier if we could manage to move the seam line of this garment to the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to simulate. I'm going to rotate this thing so that the seam line is on the top. Well, actually, no. Let's keep it there. Sorry. So what I was thinking there is if we kept this on the other side, it will be a little bit easier to sew this thing right here, like on this point, and it might be a little bit easier to just like make sure that everything flows in a better way. But I don't think we're going to be able to do that. So in this case, I know that this guy is going to be down here, right? And we can already like Control-C, Control-B, copy this, and then just go from one to the other and say a symmetrical pattern with sewing, so that whatever we do to one side, it's going to happen to the other side. So I want to sew from here, from this point, segment sewing. We're going to sew from, or sorry, free sewing. We're going to sew from this point here, from here to here. So that's going to be like the first piece of the Gusset, right? And then we're going to sew from here, or rather the other way around, from here to here, and it's going to go from here to here. So if we were to simulate this, you can see that this little like square piece is now going to be right there. It's going to be like dangling from the bottom side, right? So the diamond piece it's where it's supposed to be, which is fine. Like that's what we're going for. Now I need to find the insertion point, which is this one right here. We already know that because we already sew in this things right here. So let's stop the simulation, and we're going to go again to free sewing, and we're going to go from the center, or actually in this case, I think it's better to go from the edge in, and we're going to go from the edge in, from the edge in, and this one's going to go all the way over here, from the edge in. And those two things now are going to properly connect the Gusset with everything else. So again, if we simulate, you're going to see that this thing gets connected properly there. And we're going to have like a little bit of an extra piece of clothing there. Now, what we're going to do is we need to sew the rest of the elements. So free sewing from here to here, and that's going to go from here to here, and free sewing from out, up to out, up. And if we do this, ta-da! We get this thing right here. Now, I'm not sure if I sewed the Gusset properly. I think I did. I think we might have a couple of extra sewing lines there. See, like it's supposed to be. Yeah, I think we did something. Yeah, you can see it on the sides here. I think they're flipped. That's fine. So let's just select this guy. Edit sewing. Just gonna delete this one and this one. Let's first make sure that this is working nicely, and it is. And we'd have this little piece of fabric here. It's like triangular shape. There we go. So that little triangular shape right there. Now it's just a matter of finding the proper connection point. So I know, and we can do this. Let's stop it right here. Let's give it a couple more particle distance to both elements, because that one definitely, since it's again a small piece, we can definitely benefit from a smaller distance. So let's do 10. So now Let's go to free sewing again. And I know that we're gonna sew from the middle section in. And it's gonna be from here to here. Nope. From here to here. Is that the way it is? Let's turn on like wireframe. That seems to be right. Let's do the first simulation and let's see if that, yeah, that seems to be doing the proper transformation. So now it's just a matter of sewing from here to here, and the other segment is going to be from here to here. Is that right? Or is that flipped? I think it's right. Yeah, it looks right. Okay, there we go. So it was again just a matter of finding the proper situation. And now, as you can see, we have that little triangular shape right there, which is giving us a little bit of a release in tension. I think we can even go lower on the particle distance for that specific piece. So let's go to like a 5. And there we go. So that little piece right there is giving us a little bit of breathing room for the overall shape. And now there's not going to be as much tension. Of course, it's a little bit difficult to pinpoint, and you might even say, was it really necessary to go through that much hassle just to add like that little piece? Well, if we want to be historically accurate, then yes, you definitely want to push this thing as much as possible. The shoulders seem to be a little bit wide for this character, but it kind of seems like this was the way that this sort of shirts like worked. Like where they were with like a low shoulder right there. But look at those wrinkles. Amazing, right? So now let's finish this thing right here, which is the color. I want to open the color. Usually these shirts would have some thread going through them. Unfortunately, well, not unfortunately. Thread is possible to do it here. It's not like actual thread. It's like a hacky way to do thread. If you're doing this for like a game, you're probably gonna do the thread as a separate piece, or you're gonna bake it onto the texture, to be honest. So right now, I don't want to go like over super complicated ways to create the thread. Let's just separate this piece right here. And I know that the piece that we're gonna be separating is this guy right here, right? So let's go to our section lines again, and we're gonna create an internal polygon line from here to here. Select the line, right click, and we're gonna just cut. That way, when we do this, we're gonna have this thing open. As simple as that. Now it's just a matter of going onto this section right here, on the upper section, like or on this middle section, and I know this is the front side, so I'm gonna again go into my internal line, or actually instead of internal line, I think it might be easier to just add a point. So I'm gonna go to add point spline. Let's set a point about there. Just hit enter. I'm gonna go into my sewing section, edit sewing, and this sewing line I'm gonna delete, so that now we don't have any like front facing sewing section. So we're gonna segment sew only the front part, so that when we animate, we're gonna have the opening right there on the front, which again, it's closer to what we would expect to have, right? Now usually on this area, I think it's a little bit lower, so let me grab the point. Just gonna grab this point. Let's move it lower. Sorry if you can hear my dog. It's a little bit late and he goes crazy at night. So yeah, there we go. So now that is open and it's a little bit more like a shirt. That's way too low. Way too low, my friend. You're gonna get arrested in some areas. So let's move this point again. Oh. Like about there. Okay, that's a lot better. So now I want to create this sort of thing. I've seen this in medieval shirts quite a bit, which is like an extra support stitching for the threads, exactly. So, and we can even do the little holes. It's just the threads that we're not going to be able to do as easily as I would like. So for this one, again, I'm going to go to the polygon line, internal polygon line. Let's go to that point right there, which is an easy point to find. And then we're just going to go down and there. Just hit enter, and we're gonna have this very nice section. Now for this section, what I want to do is I want to add some ellipse cuts. So internal ellipse, let's add 1. Let's move it. There we go. Now just Control C, Control B. Let's do the same distance, so that's gonna be 39.1. That's fine. Control C, Control B. 39. I think we can do here just right click and 39.1, hit OK, Control C, Control V, same deal, just right click and write 39.1, OK, And then let's do one more. Right click, 39.1, and there we go. And now I am gonna select the patterns, all of them. Right click, and I'm gonna say cut and sew, and delete them. Not those, of course, this. So delete those. Here you can see that the element gets like disconnected. That's fine. Let's just select this guys right here and delete them as well. It might be a little bit too big, but it's fine. Now I'm gonna grab this pattern points, or actually just this line right here. I'm gonna say right click, cut and sew, and now we have this section as a separate, like a little section. And now I'm just gonna grab both of them, right click, and you know the drill. We're gonna say layer clone over, and just simulate. So it's gonna give a little bit of thickness to those specific areas. So now you can imagine that if we have some nice thread, we could bring this from one side to the other. Again, there is a way to do it. I'll see if I can add it on one of the later lessons. But for now, yeah, this is what we're gonna keep. So yeah, now it's just a matter of changing the resolution here, just a little bit. So for instance, the color, it's way too low resolution. So let's say particle density, let's bring it down to like 10. The cloud is fine. I think I'll leave the cloud like this for now. I mean, it's giving us enough FX. It's going a little bit crazy over there. Oh yeah, because they're very low in particle density. So again, these guys right here, which are super small. Let's grab like the corners and let's bring the particle density all the way down to like 5. They need a lot of geometry to properly like unfold and do what they need to do, right? There we go. It's gonna be dancing a little bit. That's kind of weird. I'm not sure why it's doing that. But yeah, that's it. Now, usually these guys would wear like a belt or something. So I'm just gonna use a nice little band to like hold this tight because we're gonna be adding the pants, of course. But I just want this shirt to look a little bit better. So I'm gonna grab like a square here, a polygon, something like this. Let's make it a little bit broader. Let's go into the sections. Select the section, right click, unfold. I think it's a little bit too small. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Probably a little bit bigger. There we go. That seems a little bit closer to what I'm going for. We're going to go segment sewing again. From here to here. A smart idea would be, of course, to bring this out. And we're just going to have this like right about there. I'll just simulate. Of course, this is not going to work. Why? Because it's not going around the character. So let's add our arrangement points. Let's arrange it right there. I am going to select like this pattern only and just change the layer to 1 so that it's on top and simulate. So as you can see, this is going to be holding the whole element. Just give a little bit of time there. Help a little bit. Come on, you can do it. There we go. That's too many wrinkles. That's fine. Okay, there we go. We're helping the belt a little bit there. That's probably a little bit too high. So remember, if it's too high, that might mean that it's too short. Because when things are too small, they tend to contract and move up in the case of this like element. So let's make this a little bit bigger. And just start moving this like a little bit down. Probably a little bit more, I would say. Just so that it can see it a little bit lower. There we go. There we go. That's a little bit closer to what I would expect. Now that it's sitting lower, I might play around with just a little bit of elasticity. Oh, way too much. No. Go back. Go back. So elastic, I'm going to say just like 98% elastic. So just so that it contracts a little bit, right? So let's move this down. No, it's way too much. Even 90% is way too much. So let's just bring this back. what I can do instead is just make this slightly shorter. Again, because remember, size will change the way it interacts with the cloth. We'll see a little bit more pressure on the cloth, and that's it. Now, I really like how it looks up here. I think it looks quite nice, to be honest. The belt, of course, there's like not right. It's a little bit too high. But as you can see, we lost a lot of wrinkles down here, right? So there's not a lot of wrinkles anymore. Why is it going so high? So and I would like this to be a little bit like bigger on the underside. So what I can do is we're actually going to be adding not darts. There's another thing that we can add that's called a spread. I believe that's the name. And the way that works is very interesting. I'm going to go here to edit transform. This one, it's the slash and spread. So the way this works is you click a segment, and then you click the direction you want to slash towards, like this one. Like this one. And then you select the side to rotate. Or sorry, click on the segment, draw a slash line. There we go. We slash. Like this. Hey, come on, it's not working. What it pretty much does, it splits the element and it moves it. Let me show you with another example first. So there we go. Oh, okay, whatever. So the way the tool works, this is actually Clo 3D, the other software that that exists here instead of the Marvelous like family, has a better tool that creates like a very nice curve. But this one, this is called slash and spread. So there we go. We go from one side to the other, then we select the side that we want to rotate to. Like this, and then we do this. See how we create this rotation right there? So what I want to do is I want to do something similar over here. Like I would like to give this like skirts a little bit more room. But then now to think of it, this might not be the tool. Oh, sorry. This might not be the tool for the specific thing that I want to do. So I think in this particular instance, if I want to make this skirt like longer, the best idea is just to grab like one of these pivot points with the edit point tool. And just move it to the side. So transform point, select that one. And then we move this out. We're going to get, again, more cloth. And that should give us a couple more wrinkles on the bottom part. What's that? Oh, yeah. That's the other pattern, right? Let's delete it. So, yeah. So maybe add a little bit of there and a little bit there. And again, that's going to add a couple of more wrinkles on the garment itself. It's gonna look a little bit more medieval, more loose. There we go. So yeah, that's it, guys. This is pretty much it for the shirt. Now for the pants, which is the next area, we actually don't have any pattern, but we're gonna be using the same things that we saw in this pattern to recreate some of the effects and elements that we want to do on the next patterns. Okay, so yep, hang on tight, and I'll see you back on the next one. Bye bye. Hey guys, welcome to the next part of our series. Today we're going to continue with the medieval pants for our character. So yeah, let's go. I'm laughing because I'm re-recording this part because I forgot to remove the cover page from the original video. So yeah, this is where we got last time. As you can see, we're still using layers on this guy, which I'm going to keep active right now because I actually set the layers to a number 1 because we're going to be building the pants and I want the pants to be, of course, underneath the character. Now, if you go online and try to look for pants like patterns, you're going to find a lot of different things. And in this case, we're actually going to be using this as a reference. I don't have a specific pattern for this one. We're going to be using more complicated patterns later on. But this one looks pretty cool. Now, as you can see, we have a waistband, very important. We have this like leg protectors over here, which I would imagine are a little bit, they have less cloth, right? And that's why we get this really nice like folding effect over here. We also have a very low cut on the groin area, on the crotch, so you're going to see that there's going to be a lot of stuff over here in regards to fabric as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So let's go. I'm going to start here with the character. I'm going to go into my polygon tool or rectangle tool, and let's start doing a belt. So this is going to be like my basic belt, which is going to be, I would say something like that. Sounds good. And of course, this is just the front view, so I would need to go into Edit Pattern, select this pattern right here, right-click, and hit Unfold. And this is going to give me the other half of my belt. I am, of course, going to be sewing the segments from here to here, And we're going to be using the patterns of our character here on the arrangement points. And we're going to select this guy and place it right there on the belt area. There we go. Oh. So this guy. Come on. I'm not sure if it's because we're seeing the patterns here. It's a little bit weird. Let's go back here. Okay, that's fine. I normally like to have the seam line on the back, but it really doesn't make that much of a difference. So we're going to simulate, and since this has the layer set to 0, of course it's going to be underneath the character. So now I'm going to go to the shirt, grab the whole pattern, right-click, we're going to freeze it so that we don't have to calculate everything. Freeze it. There we go. And then select everything, right-click, and we're going to do hide 3D pattern. There we go. I think my shortcuts are turned off. There we go. So now that's the belt. It's a little bit high, I would say. So let's just bring it down a little bit. I would say probably about there. Looks a little bit better. There we go. I don't want a lot of resolution. I think that's more than enough. Let's bring this down a little bit as well. Like just above the like underwear line. Perfect. Now for the pants, we can like use or create our own polygon, and we're going to be doing that actually for this one. So because I was going to mention that yes, we can go back here, select the pants pattern, and just use it as a base, but it's a very, very simple pattern. Usually when you're doing pants, the only thing you want to keep into consideration is the amount of like space that you're going to leave here so that there's enough like room for everything down here. So we're gonna go here to our polygon option, and in this case, you can see that we have a lot of like pleats on the element. They're not specifically pleats, but they are like specific points that are getting this sort of like very nice effects, right? So that means that we're gonna go from here, from the center, out. I'm gonna go a little bit higher or farther out so that we get more fabric, of course, and then we're gonna go in to our leg section, which is gonna have a little bit less. Probably that's a little bit too much. So there. It has a really low cut on the groin area, so I would say something like that, and then we stop right there. Perfect. Now to align the points, remember we've talked about this before. You go into transform points segments, select 2 points, right-click and say align to either the y-axis, which is vertical, or align to the x-axis. There we go. So this is going to be like one of my patterns. Select this one, Control C, right click, mirror paste, and we're immediately going to select the symmetric pattern with sewing. We select both of them, we copy, and we paste, and this is going to be the back view, of course. So now we start like moving these guys. So let's just click this, rotate them around, and place them on the back of our character, right there. And let's start stitching. So we're going to go to our segment sewing. We're going to go from here to here, from here to here, from here to here, from here to here, from here to here. Oh, it's already there because we're using symmetric pattern. I always forget about that one. And now if we simulate, as you can see, we get this. Well, actually, my bad. There was one line that was not supposed to be there, and that's this one right here. So on this intersection, I don't want to like sew across. I want to sew with each leg. So this leg right here, it's going to go to this leg right here. It's going to go to that leg right there, like that. And then this section right here is going to go to that section right here. There we go. There's going to be a little bit of a pinch right there. That's fine. We're just going to press space. Whoop. Let's reset it to the layout. Let's use garment points or adjustment points. So this one. Come on. I'm not sure what's wrong with that arrangement point, but whatever. I'm going to rotate this around. I do want this thing to be, or I do want the seam line to be on the back or as close to the back as possible. So I'm just going to move this manually. There we go. Now this one goes like there. And this one goes like there. That's a little bit closer. Now it might be a good idea to already sew this thing to the upper section as well. So I'm going to go to free sewing because the spaces are not the same, and we're going to go from here to here, from here. Is that the same? No, it can't be the same. That's really weird. Kind of looks like it's the same distance, but it's not. I'm pretty sure it's not the same distance. Where's my little point? Oh, right. So, okay, just to clarify why this is not working. The problem is, of course, this thing has way more, what's the word? Way more fabric than the other piece, right? So, even if I do this right here, like, there's no way I'm gonna see my little blue dot because it's just not gonna get all the way over there. So I'm just gonna have to like kind of eyeball it. So I'm gonna do like half of it, and then the other half, which is this one right here, again from the center to the center, and from that point to the very end. So that way we get that sort of effect. Again, from the middle point to the side, roughly there, halfway point, and then from the side to the back point, and from the side to the back point. There we go. So now if we simulate, we should get this. Nice little super wobbly pants. There we go. Let's move this up. It seems to have some sort of like stitching or something, or not stitching, like it's sticking to the character for some reason. It might be the shirt on the top, since it's frozen. Let me stop the simulation then. Let's unfreeze this, even if we don't see it, but at least just know that it's there. Yeah, that was it. So the freeziness of the element was making it a little bit difficult. So there we go. As you can see, we have this very like very big fluffy pants. But the seam line, the main, like the crotch area, is way too high. It's this one right here. So I'm gonna go again to transform point segments. Select those points. Let's bring them down. We could also use the technique that we saw on the shirt, where we added this gusset that would add like it would give a little bit of extra volume there on the pants, so that we wouldn't have this sort of like effect. But I think this one's is looking interesting. Now here's where we can like change a couple of things. For instance, like if I move this thing, because I want to see how the wrinkles change direction. Like right now, it was looking a little bit like a diaper, and I kind of didn't like that sort of effect that we were getting. So this looks a little bit more decent. There's a lot of folds, of course, but they do look a little bit more decent. Kind of like, again, similar to pleats. Not exactly like pleats, but similar to pleats. We definitely need to do the same thing on this bottom side. And actually, I think the bottom side, I'm actually going to bring this like lower, even lower. So we have way more room here on the back. Oh, it's like a weird pinching over there. So we're pinching because distances are not the same. So let's bring them up again. There we go. So now there shouldn't be any more pinching, and this thing should fall a little bit like nicer. Seems to be missing a lot of a lot of butt over here, but that's fine. Now we're gonna do the trim lines, so the support edges that we have down here. And I think one of the easiest way to do it is just grab this pattern, like this one right here. And since we already have these two patterns, just bring them all the way down to where this thing is gonna stop, which is about there. There we go. And then just add it do an internal line. So right click, offset as internal line. I'm gonna do, I think a little bit more than this. I'm gonna go like 250. It's quite high, so 250. That seems to be a little bit better. Actually, I'm just realizing that this line should be like slightly below the knee. So I'm gonna grab this line, or let's delete the line. And I'm gonna grab these two guys. No, those are fine. Those are fine. We're gonna grab these two guys, and those are fine on the ankles. But the line should be like right about here, so that's quite a big of a distance. So again, we're gonna grab this guy, right click, offset as internal line. It's probably gonna have to be something like 400, a little bit less, like 350. Yeah, that seems a little bit. I'm gonna go 360. There we go. Hit OK, and we're gonna do the same thing on this side, same distance. So select the line, right click, offset this internal line, 360. There we go. Hit OK. Select both of them, right click, and cut and sew, of course, to free them from all of the parts of the pants. Now it's just a matter of grabbing these guys right here and making them smaller, right? Because we want them to be way tighter on the elements. There we go. Look at that, amazing, really cool. I do want them to be even tighter on the inside. So this line right here and this line right here, I'm gonna transform point segments. I'm gonna scale them in. and just simulate. It's gonna give me a really nice close fit on the down down section over there, and then like a bigger fit over here. Now I do want to have more wrinkles here on the pants as well. So that means, again, following the thing that we already know, that we're gonna have to go here to the segments, select one of the segments, and scale it up. And the bigger the segment is, the more wrinkles we're gonna have. So when we simulate, we're gonna have a really, really baggy pant right there. Cool. So this is looking nice. I don't love this pinch that we have right there. Let me see if we can see that like weird pinch, and I think it's because of this line right here. So I'm gonna go here to the edit curve point, or just edit point, transform point. Let's bring this closer, just like this, because these are meant to be just like a little point there to indicate where the pants kind of like stop. There we go. Those are looking a lot nicer, a lot fluffier, and closer to the reference, right? So again, if you guys remember, this is the reference that we have, and this is what we're getting. Now, one thing that I'm noticing though is that the upper side of the reference is closer to the body than the lower side. So right now it seems to be the other way around, which means again that it might not be a bad idea to select the segments up here, like this one, and just make it slightly smaller. Same for this one. Probably a little bit more. And just simulate. So now what I'm expecting to see is a little bit of a nicer fit up there and a little bit of a looser fit down here. Another thing we can do, and this is something that we haven't really done before, is we can add a curve to the lower sections. And adding a curve is kind of like adding more volume, because this length right here is going to change. And it's very, very easy. We just go here and right click, and we are going to split. And we're going to do a uniform split. Hit OK. Same for this one. And we're going to do a uniform split right here. Okay. Select those 2 points that we just created. Right click, or first let's move them down. So I'm gonna move them down to create like a pike. So these 2 lines are now longer, of course. And then if we right click, we can convert to curve points, and we're gonna get this curve point. And now what's gonna happen is when we simulate, you're gonna see that we get way more fluffy volume down here on the bottom, because of course there's more fabric, right? So we know already that the more fabric that we have, the crunchier and the bigger, the smoother it's gonna get. So yeah, this is pretty much it. As you can see, we can get a very like fast and easy like pant segment without that much of a problem. And now we can just go into our other element of the shirt. All of this guys over here. Right click. Let's just show the 3D patterns. And look at this. Really nice. Cool. So yeah, I think this one looks really nice. And now one thing that we could definitely like benefit from is adding a little bit of thickness to certain areas. So for instance, this guy's right here, we can again use the trick that we've used so many times before. Right click, just go to pattern selection tool. Right click, layer clone. Let's do over. Again, remember it's the same. Just make sure that whatever's over is over and whatever's under is under, and that way you won't forget which one's supposed to be which one. It's going to give us a little bit more thickness to the whole thing, and it's going to look a little bit firmer, especially if that's supposed to be like supported by leather or something. That's something that we definitely want to add to our character. And yeah, I mean, he looks pretty nice, I think. One thing I like to do is to actually like hide the avatar. And that way we can appreciate the garment without the avatar, because the avatar, let's face it, it's not really made out to be like a medieval warrior. So this is what we would export to like ZBrush or Maya or something to create bakes from, and this would be our like our simulated mesh. Now we can go to the avatar though. Let's go to the male, and we do have some poses. So for instance, we can do this sort of like running pose. Let's do pose only, and you can see how the whole garment moves and accommodates itself to show us how this will how this whole like thing would look if the character is running, which as you can see, it's pretty good. So I'm gonna stop the video right here, guys. We're gonna stop on this specific part. We're not done yet. I want to add a couple of accessories to this guy. They're gonna be quite interesting. So just let's go back. Let's go back to like a basic pose here. And yeah, we're gonna be doing this on the next video. So make sure to get all the way to this point. Make sure to like follow all of this pattern so that you get this very nice result. And I'll see you back on the next one. Yep, bye bye. Hey guys, welcome back to the next part of our series. Today we're going to continue with our medieval character, and we're going to be doing a cowl, which is this sort of like hood that characters used to have. So we're actually going to be using patterns for this one, and I have one right here. I'll show you how to get it in here very quickly. Let's just reset for now. First of all, I'm going to load the same avatar that we're using, this male avatar number 2, I guess, this one right here. And we're going to be using this guy. Now, one thing I definitely want to do is I don't want to use the hair, so I'm just going to right click and say delete hair, shoes. Because hair can get in the way of the simulation. Well, not the simulation per se, but it's gonna look a little bit weird with the overlap. So now there's two patterns that I want you guys to use for this specific exercise. The first one is gonna be the pattern to create the base of the hood, which is this one right here. Now this hood right here, it looks pretty cool. I'm actually not gonna change like the size right now. Maybe just a little bit. There we go. Just move it to the side. So this is the tricky part, right? Like whenever we see this sort of stuff, at first it's like a little bit difficult to understand, like, well, what are we supposed to do here? And everyone, like every tailor that I've seen, at least in the patterns, everyone does it slightly different. So what I can see here is that we have the side of the element, the other side, so this would be like the shoulders. We have this thing called a gore, which is very similar to what we did with the pants, where we add a little bit of an extra piece of fabric so that there's not a lot of stretching. And we have another one back here. Then this is the actual hood. Sorry, this is the actual hood, and as you can see, we sew it on the back and we sew it on the front, and we create a hemline here on the inside so that it keeps its shape. Now I'm going to show you how to do this pattern, but then we're going to modify it and create something that I think looks, or it's going to look a little bit better. So first I'm going to go here to my polygon tool, go right here, shift to make sure that this is completely straight, down, and then up, down, down, all the way down here, down, there, and up. There we go. So now if we click enter, as you can see, we have the pattern. Now here it tells us that we should be doing this pattern with like the core lines and stuff, and that's only if we want to have like a couple of extra sewing lines, which I think might be a good idea. So I'm gonna go here, 45-degree angle, and then down here, and just hit enter. Enter, or actually, sorry, that was my bad. We need to do internal lines, right? So here, internal lines, we're gonna go here, 45-degree angle, and then down here, and hit enter. And then we're gonna go from that point down to this point and hit enter as well. And that's gonna give us again some sewing lines that it's gonna make it look a little bit better. I'm actually gonna grab the pattern tool, so like this pattern right here, edit pattern. This one right here, I'm gonna right click, and you know the drill, cut and sew. So now with that core is a different piece. Same thing for this one, right click, cut and sew. And now we're gonna have two different pieces, and we're gonna get a nice little line there, which we can later on reinforce with like a hem or something. Now for this one right here, this is a dart. This is pretty much a dart. We're removing some cloth from the element. So the easiest way to do it, of course, is with the dart. So I'm just gonna right click, draw a dart that has the same like sort of like general shape, and then move the dart around. So you can double click this little dot right here, and it's gonna keep it straight. Oh. Let's go to edit pattern. There we go. Now to make this a round, because the cowl and this specific cowl should be round, we're just gonna right click both little points here, right click and say convert to curve point. There we go. So now we have this very nice like opening on the fabric. Now to actually like place this fabric, what we need to do is of course move this thing around, and I definitely need to make this thing a little bit bigger. So the pattern right here is a little bit too small. So let's go to the pattern transform tool and just go from here. Now you've probably seen this thing where we are just going from one corner to the other, and it's usually fine, but you can actually double click the pivot point here in the center, and that's gonna scale it from the center. And it's gonna keep it. It's the same thing. Like right now for this one, it's the same thing. But sometimes you probably guys remember when we were doing like some patterns like this. and then I wanted to make this thing like smaller. We've been doing just like grabbing this guy right here, going into transform, and then just like going like this, but it only does like one side. You can change the point here, and it will do both sides at the same time. It really hasn't been an issue so far. Just want to mention it in case you are having issues with like uniform transform. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this one. So I'm just gonna grab everything here. Let's move it so it's right there on the head, especially here on the 3D view, of course. So we're just gonna move this thing. Can rotate this and position right there. Now, if we simulate, this is what we're gonna get. So it's at least going exactly where we want it to go, but of course, this pattern is not shown the way we would expect. So this front gore, we want it to be like right here on the front. That's exactly where it's supposed to be. This is the side gore. So as you can see, this side part right here needs to be sewn to another part, but it might be a little bit counterintuitive, and this is why patterns are so tricky, because you might think, well, I'll just do this, sew things together, and that's it. Well, no. There's a couple of other things that we need to take into account. So for instance, I want a hood. Right now this looks more like a poncho, not like a hood. So I know that this thing should be up here. That's the actual hood, and this is the actual like head for the hood. So I'm gonna change the pattern right here a little bit. I'm gonna make it I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger on the hood side of things, and then here we're gonna use segment sewing to sew from this side to this side. That will close the hood. So now, if we take a look here, this is the actual hood. Like this is the little cap that our character is gonna be it's gonna have like up here. The problem is, well, right now it's it kind of like did the opposite side, or the opposite thing of what I wanted to do, which is it tried to flip itself to the other side. So let's see if we can unflip it. If not, it's actually a little bit better just to go back here. And again, just rotate this thing. This is the important one, really. The other ones should find their way. Oop. Let's do that again. Let's move this backwards. There we go. And yeah, I'm gonna delete the seam line for now. Just 1 second. Let's go to sewing. There we go. Let's simulate first. There we go. So now to help this seam line like actually find the kind of connection that I want to find, because again, this thing is gonna go like up here, but like this. I want it to keep it like this. I'm just gonna stop the simulation right here with spacebar. And now if I sew from one segment to the other, again, here's segment sewing. It can go from here to here. And since the segments are a little bit closer, it should be a little bit easier to find. There we go. Now we have the positive like hole where we want. Now this thing, of course, is going to go all the way up here. I think it's a little bit too long. I think we went too long on this one. So let's edit the pattern. Grab this guy. Just bring it lower. And then now we also need to sew the top, but however, we won't be able to do it because we don't have any point to find the segment to. We could use free sewing, but in this one, it's a little bit easier to just click this guy, do a quick split, say uniform split, 1 or 2, that's fine. And then we're gonna do segment sewing from here to here. So now as you can see, we're gonna sew the top part of the cowl. There we go. So now this is like a little bag, and the only thing that we need to do is help ourselves and try to make this thing fit our character, which is a little bit tricky. I'm not gonna lie, because this cowls were not super like ergonomic. That's why we're gonna be doing some changes later on. So I'm gonna stop the simulation with pause, and then just try and pick this from the side. Oop. The camera also does this weird like flips every now and then. We can try moving this, and there we go. And the problem, the main problem here is that the collision for the head, it's not perfect. There we go. Come on, my little friend. You want to have a little hood. It's rainy outside or something. So there we go. Now you can see that after we do this, it's a lot easier to find where this thing is supposed to go, which is the main like opening of the object, right? Like this is the actual thing that we're gonna be using to connect both sides. But it's not very obvious over here because this thing is on the middle section. So you might think that this to connect. And again, that's the tricky part about patterns, that sometimes it might seem like the solution is quite easy, but it's not as easy as you might think. So here, just make sure that this thing is sewing in the proper direction. This one, as you can see, it's a cross stitch. So the direction has to be opposite. And there we go. We have our nice little hood for our character. Now you might be wondering, well, I kind of want to change the shapes a little bit. I don't really like it. It's not going like all the way to the front. Like, is there a way to adjust it? And the answer is yes, we can adjust it, of course. But that's why I personally don't like this cowl. And we are following the pattern. I mean, it gives a nice effect, but I don't think it looks as good, right? So I'm going to stop the simulation here, and we're going to import another pattern that's for an actual cowl. Or not an actual cowl. I mean, this is a cowl as well, but this is a different kind of cowl. So I'm going to go here, go to add background image, reset this one, and again, add background image, and we're going to import this one right here, medieval cowl. Now, the difference with this one, as you can see, let's increase the size as well. Oh, not that much. The difference with this one is that we actually have a symmetrical pattern to two sides. So, contrary to this one, which was made out of squares, and might be a little bit easier to do if you're in a hurry or something, this one will create like a round shape on the bottom side because of this curvature here. Now, I want to keep my square shape. Like, I really want to keep this square element over here, but I would like to have this like nice little pointy hood on the top. So we're only going to be tracing the top part. We're going to go to our polygon tool, of course. We're going to start there at the point, and with control, I'm going to use control in this case. I'm going to go here, click, click, control, control. And I'm going to go, I would say, right about there, and then across. Let's delete that last one. Add a little bit of curvature here. Curvature here, curvature here, and we stop there. There we go. So quite nice, quite close. As you can see, we have some differences there. It shouldn't be that much of a problem. At any point, we can also change the curvature, but I think that this one's looking quite nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm, of course, going to delete this one. Like, I don't want to use this hood. I want to use the square shape, but I don't want to use the hood. So the square shape, as you can imagine, is this guy over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use an internal line to go from here to here, hit enter, and then go from here to here and hit enter. And now I'm just going to select this pattern right here. Again, right click, this and this, right click, and we're going to say cut and sew. And this like ugly hood that we have here, we don't need anymore. We're just going to be using this like poncho thing. It's like a poncho. Here in Mexico, we have something called sarapes, and it's very similar to this one actually. They're rectangular though. So the opening is fine. It's a square opening, as you can see there. The fabric's not like matching everywhere, but that's fine. It looks nice. It looks bulky. It looks protective, which is always important. I'm not sure if he could fit his head in there though. Oh, I mean, cloth stretches a little bit, so he might be fine. Cool. So now I'm gonna grab this guy right here. Let's grab this guy's first. I'm just gonna Control K to freeze them. Reset this guy. Grab it. Rotate it. And this, of course, is going to go to the side of the head. That's way too big. So, of course, we need to make this smaller. We can compare it to the size of the head over here. That's a little bit nicer. Maybe a little bit smaller. Looks better there. Yeah, I think it looks better. And we can always make it bigger, of course. Now, one of the problems is on the connection of the elements, you can see that we have a couple of seam lines, right? Like there's two seam lines. Or actually, no, there's one seam line. Oh, that's perfect. It's going to make our lives even easier because the only thing we need to do here is Control-C, Control-R to mirror paste this thing. We're going to do a component sewing tool. So segment sewing. So from there to there. From there to there. There we go. And then we're going to go from the back to the back. There we go. That's it. That's all we need. Select this guy. Move it to the side. Bring it down. And then we just need to sew from here to here. And from here to this other side. Now when we simulate, ta-da! This little hood looks a little bit better. Now, I can definitely see that it's way too small. It's very form-fitting. So let's grab this guy right here and this guy right here. Let's just make it a little bit bigger. And again, when we simulate, we should have way more room for our character. And if we let it like just fall down, maybe he's not wearing it right now, that's perfectly fine. And if not, well, of course, we just need to play around with the collision boxes until this thing is sitting on the front side of the face, like this. There we go. And that's it. That's the nice little medieval hood. Now, what else can we do? Well, we already know by increasing the particle distance, we can make this thing a little bit nicer. We can make it, well, like have more collision points. Let's, of course, select this, guys. Control K again to simulate. Probably gonna grab everything and let's bring the particle distance to like 10. It's gonna give us, of course, more wrinkles. It's gonna look a lot nicer. Now, there's one thing we haven't done before, or we haven't used before, which are ribbons. I actually forgot to add one of the ribbons to the uniform. At least the character I used to have a ribbon. Not all of them do. But here on the hardware and trims, there are a couple things that you can use. For instance, ribbons. And if you go here, you're going to see that we have several ribbons that we can use for our character. Now, in this case, I think we're just going to go for like a very, very simple ribbon, like this one. So you can just double click to download it from the server. And we can just like literally drag and drop it right here. I don't want to save just yet. And I just want to add. Okay. And what's going to happen is we're going to be adding the pattern for our ribbon. And not only that, I mean, the ribbon's already done. As you can see here, it's already done. It's ready for us. Can we do a ribbon from scratch? Yes, of course. But to be honest, it's quite tricky because you need to do a lot of looping and a lot of simulation to make sure that things look as nice as possible. And in this case, it's just easier to just move this thing around. Now, how can we make sure that this thing stays where we want it to stay? There's a couple of options, but in my case, I'm just going to use a pin. So I'm going to grab like this guy right here. This is the pin option. Ooh, where is it? Here, the tack. So I'm going to tack, and then I'm going to tack this ribbon. Tack this guy. There. So when we simulate, the ribbon's going to be stuck right there. So yeah, that adds a little bit of detail. This is the kind of things, if you ask me about like game character creation, this is the kind of things that we would probably do later, because having to retopologize this thing or retopologize this thing, it's a little bit too much, and sometimes it's a little bit too much for simulation and stuff. It looks really cool here, right? But that might not be what you want all the time, okay? Now, let's add some pattern lines here to the outer edge and to the hood as well. So I'm going to stop the simulation. I'm going to go into my pattern lines, select like all of this, guys, right click, and I want to add a line. I think we're going to have to do it by like one by one. So I'm going to say offset as internal line. Now we should be able to do both of like all of them. So there we go. Offset as internal line. There we go. And I think 5mm is perfectly fine. I'm just going to hit OK. As you can see, we get like a nice little extra edge right there, extra line. And remember, lines can help us with two things. One, they will make sure that we have like a more defined edge on the garment, so it's going to look like a support edge pretty much. But we can also use this to create like the hem, which is what I want to do. So I'm going to select the pattern right here, all of these patterns. I'm going to right click and say clone as pattern. So what this will do, as you can see, is we'll get, or actually I wanted the other one. Another very quick option. No, I actually think it's a little bit easier if we clone as pattern. So let's select the outer edge. Oh, you know what? No. Let's sew first. Let's cut and sew first. There we go. Now the little things are separated. Now we can grab all of these patterns, like the little rhomboid shapes, and just right click, and we're going to do a layer clone under. Let's bring them down here. And again, when we simulate, since that thing already, like those things are already sewn together, let's get rid of the internal lines. We're going to get a very, very nice detail over the whole thing. Now for the hood, we're going to do the exact same thing, but I actually just want the hem to be on this side right here, on the upper side. So let's grab this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy, right click, and we're going to say offset as internal line. 5mm is fine. Maybe this one, let's make it a little bit bigger. So let's do 10mm. Hit OK. Now here you're going to see something that's really important. See how this thing is not going to where it's supposed to be going? It's not stopping. So if we try to sew this thing, it's not going to work. So I'm going to right click this guy, extend trim and add point to pattern outline, like that. and we're gonna do the same thing over here, and in this case I'm gonna say extend trim to pattern outline, and that way this stops at the pattern outline. It's not going anywhere else. Very, very important to do this, otherwise what we're about to do, it's not gonna work. So again, right click, extend trim in that point to pattern outline. There we go. Now we can grab the internal line, of course both of them on both sides, right click and cut and sew. Select the new patterns that we have created, right click, and we're gonna layer clone under. I mean, it's just for visual purposes, or let me do layer clone over then. Layer clone over, there we go. And that's it. So now when we simulate, you're gonna see that we have a very, very nice trim down there. Now I know in medieval times maybe the fashion was not like that, and we didn't have that sort of stuff, but it looks pretty nice. You can't deny that, right? Like this hood looks quite nice. Like I could see a hero from a fantasy game using it, and yeah, it looks nice. Now one thing we can do, of course, remember we can grab like this trim lines and bring the particle distance even lower, because since they're so small, we might need like a lower particle distance to really see the effects that we are looking for. And that's it. That's our cowl. That's our cloak. So let's save this project real quick. And as you can see, we did this as a separate project. Again, very similar to the uniform, to make sure that we're not like having any conflict with the other piece. And let's call this medieval. We can even call it like a cloak. Let's call it cowl. Cowl is just like the little head thing. This like thing on the underside looks a little bit more like a cloak. So now I'm gonna open the project, the other project. Let's open the medieval outfit that we were working on. Let's open it. This is the one, looking very, very nice. We have a little bit of an issue here with the legs. I think when we changed the avatar thing, it like, modified something. Let's bring the avatar in again. Would you like to lower? Yes. There we go. Let's move the pose. Oh, let's go to the poses, and let's go with like a more open pose, so we can appreciate the garment a little bit better. And here's where we would probably have to use the arrangement points again. Let's simulate. Okay, that's working a little bit better. I really like those wrinkles down there. I know that in the reference this was a little bit tighter, but I really like the way this looks. Now we're gonna say File, Add, and we're gonna add a project. We're gonna add our medieval cowl. Open. We're just gonna add, and we just want to add the garment. Hit OK. Would you like to? No, I do not want to do that. There we go. That's the cowl right there. And the only thing we need to do is give this thing a high layer, again like a 4, and simulate. So now that the cowl is gonna go all the way to the top, like there. Let's stop the simulation. Let's delete the hair. Again, right click, delete hair shoes. Simulate again. So this falls a little bit nicer. And look at that. Character is looking quite nice, I would say. The shoes the shoes kill it though. So let's grab the shoes, right click, and let's delete hair shoes. There we go. So now we can actually see all of the cloth. So yeah, there we go. We stopped the simulation. We grabbed all of the patterns. Here we definitely need to do a little bit of cleanup. As you can see, it's getting a little bit too busy. So let's select this guys. Let's move them up. And then this thing is supposed to go down. This thing goes here. You always want to keep your workspace as organized as possible. Again, just to what? I don't have a hole. Do I have a hole? I think these are way too small. That's why we're having some issues there. Let's grab both of them. There we go. And just move them up here. I know they're supposed to be under, but that's fine. Like the ribbon, of course. Let's move the ribbon like up there. Perfect. So now, again, we can grab all of the patterns and just change the layers to 0 for all of them, so that when we simulate, since they already are where they're supposed to be, we can just start moving things around and making sure this looks as nice as possible. And that's it. Our medieval outfit is ready. We have this very nice. He doesn't look like a hero yet, I would say. He looks a little bit more like a peasant. But yeah, it looks pretty cool, as you can see, and it didn't really took us that long, right? So now, before we finish this chapter and we move on to something a little bit cooler, I do want to touch a little bit on the fabrics, colors, and materials, because since we have so many pieces right now, it's getting a little bit lost, right, on the different like materials that we could have on this character. So it would be nice to see him with proper like medieval patterns and fabrics. So yeah, hold on tight, and I'll see you back on the next video. Bye bye. Hey guys, welcome back to the next part of our series. Today we're going to continue with a bracer. I know in the last video I mentioned that we were going to be working on the textures, and we will, before this chapter is over, we will take a look at the textures. But I really want to show you a very powerful tool that we have here inside of Marbles Designer that really fits our character right now, because we can actually build armor with this software. So I'm not going to do the armor on the main file just yet. We're going to append it later on, and I'm going to grab this guy. This is going to be our main character. So before we jump onto the actual like building, we're going to do a nice little bracer here on his left side. Before we do that, I need to show you how this works. Like why does this work and how does it work? Well, let's imagine that we have a polygon right here, or just like a basic rectangle. This rectangle is just a very like thin piece of fabric, right? Well, there is a nice little option on the fabric section of our elements that allows us to change the thickness at which the element is being rendered here. Okay, now the cool thing about this is that even though it's a fake, let's call this a fake render, when you export this, you can actually export the thickness, and it will be working perfectly fine. So you can bring this into ZBrush, Maya, any other software, and it will work just fine. So the way this works is very simple. I'm going to create a new fabric here. I'm going to call this leather. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the presets down here, and I'm going to load the preset. Now, if you look here on the presets from your basic like material function, you're going to find this one that's called Trim Full Grain Leather. And that's pretty much just leather. Okay, so it's going to be really, really hard. If I simulate this, you can see that it's really it's quite hard compared to other types of clothing. Let's stop the simulation, reset the arrangement points. There we go. Now there's one thing I'm going to do here. I think we've already talked about this, but if you right click here on the elements, you can actually go into simulation properties, and these are the properties that are like simulating the world. I think we already did this when we talked a little bit about the wind, but for now I just want to go here to the gravity. I'm going to turn this off. That way when we simulate, this piece of fabric is just going to be there. Now of course if I move it, it's like if it's at zero gravity, and it's going to be moving pretty much everywhere, but I'm just going to stop it, and there we go. So we're back to basics. Now, how does this thing work? How does the thickness work? Super simple. On the pattern itself, let's change the color. Sorry, not on the pattern, on the fabric itself. Okay. Let's apply this, of course. There we go. So now it should be like leather. On the fabric itself, you're going to go down here to where it says thickness here on the fabric. There we go, thickness. By default, as you can see, it's set to 0.5 millimeters. So it's really, really, really thin, like a piece of paper, right? It's half a millimeter, so it's really, really small. I'm gonna change this to something like, I don't know, 3 centimeters. And now, nothing happens. Why? Because we need to select up here this option with this called thick texture substance. And now you can see this actually has thickness to it. And if we were to like use this or move it and modify it and place it on top of the character, you're gonna see that the thickness actually does play a role on the deformation of the character. Here, let's turn the gravity on again. So simulation properties, gravity minus 98 hundredth, and just simulate. And there we go. So as you can see, that's the leather. It's kind of like sticking. As you can see, it's like a solid piece of leather, right? Like really, really nice. And as you can see, we're going to be able to do all of the things that we normally do, such as sewing, pattern cutting, everything that we've done so far, buttons even, using this piece of fabric, okay? So really, really important. Later on, we're going to add like proper textures to this thing so that it actually looks like leather. But for now, we're gonna keep it simple. So we're going to be using this arm as a reference point, and we're going to do a relatively simple bracer, okay? So let's go. First, I'm going to go here with my polygon tool, and I'm going to start drawing a bracer. I'm going to start from the center, out, and then we're going to go up. And I want to do this very like traditional archery bracer that curves out, kind of like a it looks very much like a shirt pattern. So there we go. Just like that. I'm going to select this pattern, right click, and we're going to copy and mirror paste. and then we're select one and the other, and we're going to do symmetric pattern with sewing. There we go. Oh, there we go. So this patterns are symmetric right here. Of course, we're gonna sew them together. So we want them both to go into the same little piece. And here we can use, of course, our arrangement points. Select both elements. Select our arrangement points on the avatar, and get them there on the arm. There we go. That's a little bit too big, I think. So I'm gonna grab both patterns, and I'm just gonna scale this down, and probably scale this in a little bit. I don't want this to be like super big. Perfect. Now, of course, I'm not going to simulate, or I mean, we could simulate, but if I simulate, this thing's just going to fall because we don't have straps. So we need to add some straps. Now, I definitely want this thing to be a little bit thicker. So let's go to like 6 centimeters. I know it might be like a little bit too much, like it's a really thick piece of leather, but usually this leather work bracers would have a lot of effects like this. So we're going to add some pattern lines, some internal pattern lines, and we're going to go here, internal rectangle. Let's add one right here. And then another one like right here. And what I want to do is I want to create kind of like the attachment point for the straps that we're going to be creating from this particular pieces, right? So I'm going to select the pattern here, right click, and we're going to select this option called Add Point to Intersection. What this will do, as the name implies, it will create a little point on the intersection, and that's pretty much all we want to do. Well, why do we need to do that? Well, because as you can see, the pattern is going outside of the object, and we don't want that. So I'm going to go here to Edit Transform Point Segment. And this things right here, I'm just going to delete. That way, we have our internal section without it affecting any of our external elements, okay? Now, I'm going to grab this pattern right here. I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to say Clone as Pattern, so that we have an exact copy of the element, which is that little star right there. You can see that since we're using the same leather material, we are getting the thickness as well, which is quite important. And now, I'm just going to copy, mirror paste, and paste it on this side. There we go. Select one, select the other, right click, and we symmetric pattern with sewing. Just so that if we modify anything on one side, we get the same thing on the other side. Do the same thing here, clone as pattern, Control C, Control R is the shortcut, and I forgot to turn on the Karnak thing again. I always forget when I start recording. There we go. Select one, select the other, right click, and we're gonna symmetric pattern with sewing. There we go. So now we have our straps. These are gonna become our straps for our little elements right here. The only thing is I need to make sure that these are flat, right? So we already know how to do that. We go into Transform Point Segments, grab both points, right click, and align to the Y axis. So grab one, grab the other, align to the Y axis. And as you can see, both of them are gonna be aligned perfectly fine. We're gonna grab one of these guys, and we're gonna bring this out. Grab the other one and bring this out as well. And I think this should be more than enough for the patterns that what I want to create here. So now it's just a matter of grabbing the sewing line here. So segment sewing, we're going to sew from here to here and from here to here. Perfect. Now, of course, we can't just simulate like so because these things are not where they're supposed to be. So let's select this pattern, which is this one right here. And I would expect this pattern to be like about there. We're gonna try to position these guys as close as possible to where they're gonna be attaching. And this pattern right here is gonna go to the other side and rotate. You can use the little squares there to move a couple of these points. Yeah, I really wish the gizmos, I think I've mentioned this before, I really wish the gizmos worked a little bit closer to how they work on other 3D softwares. But, I mean, we can't really ask everything, right? So, then this pattern right here, same thing, let's rotate this. So this one's gonna be right about here. There we go. We could try using the attachment points. Let me see if it works. Here to the wrist. I mean, nah, it doesn't really work. Oh, the camera is going crazy. There we go. So let's just position this thing right here. Just rotate this a little bit so it's a little bit easier to see what we're about to do. Because now comes the important, or I would say one of the most important parts of the whole process, which is the stitching of these things into the actual bracer. And to do the stitching, well, we already have the sections, right? So we're going to use a section stitching right here. So we're going to go free sewing. We're going to go from this point there, and from this point to the blue dot, then there, and then there. You can see, of course, this sewing line is slightly smaller because of the inclination of the sewing line. And there we go. So now, if we simulate, ta-da! Our bracer is right there on our character. And as you can see, it looks quite nice. Now, of course, I can see that the straps are a little bit too big, which I was kind of expecting, because we're not using any pattern or anything. So the lower strap is definitely way too big. Let's make this thing shorter. And then this one's slightly bigger, so let's make it shorter as well, just so that it hugs the surface a little bit better. There we go. So as you can see, the one here on the top or closer to the wrist is a lot better. And this one still has a little bit of room, so I think we can just push this thing a little bit closer. There we go. That's of course gonna fold the whole element, and look at how nice the insertion points are. Now, I know that this might not be the exact way bracers are made in the real world, like the kind of stitching and stuff might be a little bit different, but if you're trying to come up with like a quick blocking, instead of having to extract shapes in ZBrush or poly model things inside of Maya or Blender, this is a really fast way to prototype things. And we're actually gonna make it look quite nice. So let's add a couple of details here to really like bring this thing to the next level. So the first thing I would like to do is I would like to add a little bit of another like fabric piece here on the front, but I want to follow kind of like the same shape. So I'm going to use a rectangle here. Just create a nice rectangle right about here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this internal line, right click, offset as internal line. Let's do like 10 centimeters. Hit OK. I'm going to grab this line. Remember, we can double click here to scale this on, or actually let's cut and sew. There we go. Because I want to grab this segment right here, only that segment. And I want to bring this in to create this sort of like hexagon shape. And then we're going to free sew this thing. To make it easier, we could get like a split right here. There we go. And we're going to, I think it's a little bit too big. So before we sew anything, let's bring this a little bit smaller. There we go. And we're going to use our free sewing tool to go from here to here, from here to here, from here to here, from here to here. So now when we simulate, that little flap is going to go right there to the beginning of our element. Now we could have created another like square shape like right about here, and that could have been another way to handle this. But I think this one looks interesting, and I think we can get away with the shape. I know it might not be historically accurate, but it looks nice. Now let's add a little bit of you're gonna love this, guys. We're gonna add a little bit more detail here. So I'm gonna grab my segment point here, my edit pattern, and I want to add another layer of this like shapes that we have here. So let's do this one first. I'm gonna right click, offset as pattern outline. Sorry, actually cancel. We're just gonna grab the external ones, right click, and we're gonna say offset as internal line. I'm gonna go up a little bit like closer. So let's go like about there. And now I'm gonna grab this patterns, Control C, Control B to paste them up here. There we go. Grab that little line that right there, right click, cut and sew. And we're going to eliminate this outer edge right there. There we go. We also can eliminate this inner like sections that we have. We don't need them anymore. As you can see, these are mirror patterns, so that's perfectly fine. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch these things on top of this guy to create a little bit more volume on the whole thing. So I'm going to grab these two guys, and I'm just going to go into free sewing. So we're going to sew all of this to all of this, and there we go. Boom. Now you can see that here we're getting some sort of like problems with the overlaps on specific parts. If you get that, just pull and push the cloth, like help the collision a little bit to make this a little bit more accurate. There we go. So that the little straps are going under this main shape that we're adding. And again, it's a very nice and quick way to blocking certain things here inside of Marvelous Designer. I want to do something similar here. Like I feel like we could benefit from having like a square on this area. So maybe instead of sewing this thing here, let's sew it on this line right there. So I'm gonna go into my sewing options, edit sewing. Let's delete the sewings. Now let's use again our free sewing tool. You're gonna go from there to there, but we're gonna sew it like closer on the edge of the elements. There we go. So now there we go. That's a little bit closer to what I was going for. It's jumping a little bit. It's having a little bit of a hard time. So in this case, I think it might even be a better option. Let's delete this segment. It might be a better option to just edit sewing, to sew it to the other piece, this one over here, to the one on top. So again, just free sewing tool, half, 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 and half. Now we simulate. It's gonna go to the top. There we go. So I kind of want this to be like a little like extra defense piece, if you wish. So now that we have that, now that we have all of these elements, let's add the buttons first, because I'm going to show you about the stitching very, very soon. But I want to add the buttons first. So I'm going to go here into my buttons option, and you can actually see that we have this default button. I'm going to click Add to add a new button, and this one we're going to call Rivet. And on the Rivet section, I'm going to change the shape of the button exactly to a rivet, like this, like the shank button, or this like snap rivet. Even this like eyelet looks cool. I think we're gonna go with this like square rivet, like that one. So now if I go into my button options and I select add button, we can add a button right here, and we can add another button right there, and we can even add a button like, let's say there, like on the corners right there. And I think that's it. I think those would be nice. However, we have a big problem. They're way too big. Good thing is we can actually modify the buttons right here. So let's bring them down to, I think 5 is way too little. Let's do like an 8. That's working a little bit better. Yeah, that looks like a nice little rivet there. Careful with adding more buttons. We don't need to do that just yet. We can of course move the buttons around. So for instance, this button, want to move it a little bit. Same for this one. Since it's intersecting, let's move it out a little bit. That one we don't want. And one thing that we're gonna see here that's quite important we need to fix is that some of the buttons are a little bit too pointy. So we can also change the width of the buttons here, the thickness. So let's go to like a thickness of 2. It's gonna make them a little bit flatter. But the problem is, as you can see, they're floating. There's a little bit of an offset. And the reason why they're floating is, you guys know that normally when we use the buttons, they go across seams. And right now we're not using, and we're not going across any buttonhole. So one thing that we need to do is, this is on the buttons themselves. Like we need to select all of the buttons. So select these buttons right here. And on the options here, on the thread length, we're gonna bring the thread length down. So thread length is how much like thread you have for the button. And if we bring this down, what's gonna happen is we're gonna get the thing closer. So you can't go super low. Let's start with a -1 first. That should be more than enough. Should be more than enough, but just make sure that it is. I think it is. I think we're in a really good position there. Cool. Wow, that's weird. For some reason it didn't work on the other side, but I think we can just select them all, right click and say mirror paste or duplicate to symmetric pattern. There we go. So now they're on both sides of our element, of our little bracer right here. Cool. Let's go back to selection mode, and yeah, we're one step closer to finishing this bracer. The only thing that it will greatly benefit from is having some like stitching lines. You know how sometimes we get like this sort of like thread effect going across the different parts of the thing. Well, that's exactly what we're gonna do. I'm gonna go here first to this one to show you how this works. These are called top stitch. Is this things right here, and I'm just gonna select like again the 3 lines right here. Right click and create an internal line. Offset this internal line. That seems to be fine. And on this one, now I'm going to go into top stitch, and I'm going to say segment top stitch, and I'm going to select the top stitch, this guy's right here. And as you can see, we get this. We get stitches going all across the line that I just selected. Now, the top stitch works, or they work in a very similar way as fabrics, buttons, and everything else. So we do have the menu for top stitch, and right now we're using this ones right here. This is like a very standard size for the top stitch, which in this case we're using this thing called a pick stitch. We can change this, like we can do like a zigzag stitch, we can do like a Bartek stitch. There's a lot of different ones. I think the single stitch is like the most common one, but in this one, I think a zigzag stitch would look very, very cool. I think it looks quite nice. You can change the length, you can change the width, you can change the spacing, the thickness. The one thing I want to change, and it's making me a little bit mad here, is the fact that, as you can see, we added the top stitch, but it's not on the actual line. It's a little bit like further down. If you want this to be exactly on the same place, you need to bring this offset all the way down to 0. Okay? So when you do that, the top stitch is now going to match with the actual position of your element. Okay? And you can actually, I believe we can add top stitch to the border as well. So here on the top stitch, I'm going to say segment top stitch, and we're going to add top stitch all the way across the part right there. And let's just go crazy with the top stitch and add more top stitches here to our assets. So let's do that, that, and that. Let's go on this one as well. All of the outside, there we go. Looks pretty good, right? Not bad. Not bad for a 20-minute quick bracer here instead of Marvelous. Now for this ones, I don't want to add the top stitch, but I want to add it on the inside. So I'm gonna go back to selection. I'm gonna select 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, which again should select both sides. Right click, offset as internal line. 16 millimeters is way too much. Something like that. 4 millimeters seems a little bit better. As you can see, since it's symmetrical, it should match fairly nicely. We could, of course, create this as a single piece, but just for simplicity's sake, I'm going to leave it like this right now. Let's go back to top stitch, to 7 top stitch, and we just keep adding the top stitches. Now, as you can see here, it's having some issues, and it does have a little bit to do with the particle density, I believe. So if we bring this thing down to like 10, it should behave a little bit better. But sometimes, and in some tricky areas like this pattern that's stitching underneath the element, you might have some issues. Now, one cool thing that we can do with the stitchings is we can change the color, the textures, and everything. So let's go for like a yellowish stitch, or like a dark brown stitch. I don't know, maybe even a black stitch looks interesting, because I think white's way too much. So maybe like a dark brown stitch and hit OK. And there we go. We have successfully finished our bracer. Now remember, at this point, you can do as many things as you want. We can, for instance, change the color. That will be something super simple. So let's grab like this guys right here, right click and cut and sew. And then on the materials, let's go back to fabrics. We can just grab our letter, copy, and call this dark leather. Change the color to something a little bit darker. Hit OK. And just drag and drop this onto the new pieces that we want to be like a little bit darker. So maybe like this little extra piece and the straps. I think those are good places to have this sort of like dark leather effect. And there we go. We again have created a very nice and successful bracer pattern. You can go as complex or as simple as you want. You can do a very simple like gladiator wrist, which is just like a cylinder, or you can go super fancy and create like different plating effects. This, by the way, could also be transformed into armor. Like you can use this as basis for an armor. There's actually some patterns out there about how to build armors, and you can use those. You can use those to create armors as well using this exact same method, which is the thickness method and all of this like layering method. So I'm gonna save this real quick. Save project. Let's go to our chapter, and we're gonna save this as medieval bracer. Remember that having them as separate pieces is a little bit more efficient, especially if you don't want to combine them all into a character, because that way you're able to just like select what works and what doesn't work. So yeah, this is it for this one, guys. In the next video, which is going to be the final video for chapter 3, we're going to be talking about materials. We're going to be talking about rendering later on the final chapter, when we talk about the other systems like Maya and Blender and Marmoset. But for now, I want to take a look at how to give a little bit more color to our things. So yeah, hang on tight, and I'll see you back on the next one. Bye-bye.